Have you ever worked somewhere and, well, you bust your butt all the time and never get what you rightfully deserve? Or how about getting fired from a place that you were there for years and did everything they asked of you, only to find out that your boss, the same boss that fired you, was hiding something dark, a deep dark secret, and you're the one that finds out about it, so you have one word on your mind, and that word is revenge. I, 30 male, have had this complicated and toxic work relationship with my boss for a few years now. We used to get along quite well before we had this disagreement. It all started a few years back. So, I work in the marketing department, and I had this important presentation to present in front of very important clients. I was busy working on the presentation this one afternoon. It was knock-off time, and most of the employees had gone home, except for my boss and a few other employees, who were working overtime or even catching up on some work. This presentation is due tomorrow, and it needed to be absolutely perfect, because getting this contract would be huge for my career. Mr. Entitled walked into my office and greeted me. I greet him back and continue working on the presentation. He looks over my shoulder and asks me if he can look over my presentation, which I agree with, because he is the one that does have the final say, and his feedback is vitally important. Mr. Entitled has been very successful in his career, and this company is one of the biggest marketing agencies in the country. He looks over at my presentation and immediately frowns at it. He tells me that I need to start over because the presentation is horrible, and it will not impress the client. I ask him what exactly is wrong with it then, so, I can change those errors. He just shakes his head and tells me that my presentation is awful and I should change everything. He then leaves my office and leaves me utterly confused. This is how the disagreements came about. I decided not to change anything about my presentation because my gut feeling told me that this presentation would win our clients over. Also, come on, I had spent weeks working on it and doing research on this marketing strategy that I'll be presenting to the clients. Well, as I was about to leave my office to go to the boardroom, Mr. Entitled came in. His face turned red as he saw that I had not taken his advice. He closed my door and proceeded to yell at me, telling me that I am about to lose money for this company, all because I decided not to listen to his, quote, golden advice that has worked for many years. I tell him that he did not give me any advice, and that all he did was tell me that my presentation was all wrong, with absolutely no feedback or constructive criticism. How was I supposed to work with that and follow such an empty lead? It was that day I saw Mr. Entitled in a different light. After making that statement, he proceeds to hurl insults at me. He insulted my work ethic and qualifications and even called me a stupid young boy. He kept on calling me stupid, dumb, incompetent, and told me that I went to a dumb college while he actually went to a real one. I took his insults lightly because I know how to be a professional, and his opinion of my work does not really matter. What matters to me is my client's opinion. I tell him I have to go present my project, and I head out to the boardroom. My clients were extremely happy with my presentation and agreed to sign a contract with us. As long as I will be the one in charge of the project, of course. They even called Mr. Entitled in and told him their terms and conditions. The main condition being that I head this account. I have to give credit for his acting skills because he told the clients that he was extremely proud of me and knew that this presentation would certainly win them over. After the clients leave the boardroom, Mr. Entitled stays behind and gives me a cold stare, which I just ignore. He tells me that I'm still stupid and that I will never reach the level of success he has. That was the moment I knew that my work relationship with Mr. Entitled would actually just never be the same. So, that's where Mr. Entitled's animosity towards me began, and he's been looking for every opportunity to get me fired. Today is a busy day at the company, and I've been busy looking through all my marketing accounts because I have to send my budget amounts to the accounting department. My colleague Jake, who also happens to be my best friend, walks into my office. Jake and I have been best friends since college, and we were lucky to have both been hired at this company. He asked me if I want to go out and get some lunch because he needs a bit of fresh air, and yeah, I agree with him. The office gets really hectic during budget season, and I tell him to give me 5 minutes to save my budget sheet and email it to the accounting department. I do all that, and we head out to this nearby restaurant, and everyone loves going to ours. Our lunch break is normally an hour, but sometimes you can go ahead and add an extra 30 minutes if you don't have any meetings or a hectic workload. The waiter at the door takes us to an outside table and leaves us with the menus. I asked Jake about how things at work are going since he just landed his first big marketing account. He tells me that things have been going really well, and he's enjoying working on the account, but Mr. Entitled is just making things unnecessarily hard. He mentions how Mr. Entitled has been rude to the employees and how he belittles everybody who manages to get a big client. Jake has never liked our boss, mainly because he feels that he is very egotistical and thinks that no one can ever reach his level of success. Jake knows about what happened between me and Mr. Entitled, and it did not shock him that he acted the way he did. He says that people like Mr. Entitled don't like to be intimidated, and because of that, they rather belittle people, so they never reach their full potential, which is absolutely toxic. We order our food, and I decide to order a medium well steak with chips on the side, while Jake orders himself some grilled fish with chips. Jake then asks me about my projects and how those are going, and I respond by telling him that everything's going great, and I'm proud of my success so far. We then talk about our personal lives. Jake just recently got married to his long-term girlfriend from college, and she's now expecting their first child, whom they want me to be their godfather to. I immediately agreed and said I can't wait to meet the little guy or girl. However, my love life is simply non-existent. I went through a very bad breakup last year, and I'm still healing from it. I was with my ex-girlfriend for 5 years, and unfortunately we grew apart and wanted different things for ourselves. At the end of the relationship, I did not even recognize her anymore, and decided to finally break things off. Me and Jake, well, we finished up our lunch and decided to head right back to the office. I passed by the accounts department wanting to make sure they had received my budget sheet. This is a very important thing because we're all allocated a budget for each account that we secure. Sometimes you can go lower than the allocated budget and have money left, which you have to inform the accounts department before you spend that money on your personal needs or wants. I normally tell them just to transfer the leftover money to an account that is battling and needs financial assistance. Marketing can get very expensive, especially when you're just starting up and need to build up your clientele. I see that Mr. Entitled is also there, and I sigh heavily, hoping that he doesn't see me. I quickly go to the accounts manager and ask her if she has received my budget sheet. She tells me that she has not checked her emails yet, and to give her a moment so she can check. I smile at her and tell her it's okay. While waiting, I can feel Mr. Entitled's eyes start glaring at me, and I just feel a sense of discomfort. I swear, if this job was not paying me as well as it was, I would leave this place because having a boss that's always at your neck and just isn't pleasant at all. The accounts manager tells me that she received my email and will send it through to get it approved and signed. I thanked her and quickly walk off. Well, a few days passed and I'm in Jake's office busy bouncing ideas off each other like usual when Mr. Entitled personal assistant enters the room. He tells me that I am being summoned to Mr. Entitled's office and it's very urgent. Me and Jake look at each other with confusion, but I follow the personal assistant straight to the office. When I entered his office, I see that both the HR manager and account managers are there. Mr. Entitled looks at me with a smirk on his face while the managers look uncomfortable and straight up defeated. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Today's story is absolutely intense. I'll go ahead and tell you the title of the next update. Update number 1. I am in absolute shock. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for daily videos, and just so you know, it does support me a lot, and I appreciate every subscription. Let's go ahead and see what's going on with update number 1. Absolute shock. I clearly underestimated Mr. Entitled's capabilities and how evil he can truly be. The accounts manager is informing me that I have not gotten an excess amount approved, and I had spent the money without permission. I ask her, when did I spend the money? She tells me that this occurred a month ago, and because I have not informed the accounts department about there being leftover money, I'm being investigated for unethical behavior and misuse of company funds. The HR manager repeats exactly what the accounts manager said, but gives me a letter that clearly states I'm receiving a written warning. The HR manager tells me that because I have been a loyal employee and I've never received a warning through all my years at the company, I am only receiving a warning because there's no indication that I used the money for my own personal use. The only mistake I made was not informing accounts about the excess money. I sighed with a sense of relief. But that is short-lived because Mr. Entitled stands up and informs me that what I've done is completely unethical and goes against all the company standards. I can see the joy in his eyes while both the managers look at him with confusion. He continues to say that what I've done is unacceptable, and that he'll be using me as an example to show all the other employees what'll happen to them if they dare make the same mistake. The accounts manager tried to interrupt him to at least defend me, but he ignores me and proceeds to tell me that I am fired, and I need to pack up my things and leave the building ASAP before he decides to call security. I looked at him shocked and in complete, utter disbelief that he's really firing me over this. The HR manager tries to defend me and tells him that what he's doing is not according to the HR standards and that he just can't fire someone. He smirks and says yes he can because this is his company and she should never forget that. He looks at me and tells me to hurry up because I only have 10 minutes to pack my things and leave before he calls security. I leave his office and go to mine where there are already boxes on my desk. He had this plan all along. I packed up my things, trying my best to remain calm and not to lose my temper, but I can feel the anger growing inside of my body. Jake comes by when I'm leaving the office with boxes in my hand. He immediately rushes to me and asks me what's going on. I tell him that I've been fired and he's shocked. He doesn't ask me any more questions and helps me carry the boxes out of the building, all the way to my car. He tells me that he will come by my place after work, and I just nod my head while I get inside my car. I drive off and head home without even stopping by any traffic lights, and thank the heavens I did not get a speeding ticket for causing any accidents. I park the car in my garage and start hitting my steering wheel with all my might. I can't believe that evil jerk fired me. He just threw me out like garbage. After all these years, I've given that stupid company of his and all of the clients I've gotten him one by one. He does this to me? I hit my steering wheel one more time before I headed inside. A few hours later, Jake pulls up. It's Jakey boy, right at my place, and he's carrying a file. I can already see that he's uncomfortable and ask him, "What's wrong, Jake?" He tells me that everyone knows what happened. I stare at him confused, and he tells me that Mr. Entitled had called for an immediate staff meeting after I left the premises and told everyone that I have been fired because I stole money from the company. I began to laugh hysterically, First he fires me with no good reasonable ground, and now he wants to slander my name and reputation. Jake puts his hands over my shoulder to calm me down and lets me know that he doesn't believe that because he knows the type of person that I am. I calm down a bit and thank him for having faith in me. He tells me that he is sorry to be the bearer of even more bad news. And I look at him while he takes a bunch of papers from a file that he was carrying. I grab the papers and scan through them. This man is truly evil. He sent Jake to serve these papers that state I will not be receiving any severance with no explanation. I just throw the papers on the ground and just yell at the top of my lungs, thinking about how on earth am I going to get through this. Even if I decide to take Mr. Entitled to court, he could drag out this case for months because he has a top-notch team of lawyers and a huge fat bank account, while I, on the other hand, am unemployed with nothing to fall back on. I tell Jake that Mr. Entitled has messed with the wrong person, and he will not get away with this. I vow to take him and his stupid company down. Jake agrees with me and promises to help me take down Mr. Entitled, and that whatever I need, he will help me, and that I am not alone. He's now my inside man. Update number 2. A few weeks has passed since I've got fired, and it has not been all that bad. Jake's been keeping me updated about what's going on at the company, and things are going on as usual. I've been thinking of ways on how I can get my revenge on Mr. Entitled, and finally, I have a plan. I just have to run it through Jake, who, by the way, I'm meeting up with to discuss it. Jake comes by my place, and we head to my office space. I tell him that I want to investigate Mr. Entitled because I believe that a man that evil has to have skeletons in the closet that can be found. Jake tells me he's willing to help me in any way he can, so we agree that I will do research and investigate from home, while Jake will do some digging at the company and bring to me whatever he can find. The investigation is pretty slow at first, and it seems like there's nothing we can find on Mr. Entitled. It's either he really is a squeaky clean businessman, or he's really good at covering up his tracks. One afternoon, Jake pops by with a folder and a smile on his face. He puts it on the table and tells me that he managed to take some files from the accounts department during the lunch break. We go through them, and I pick up that there are a lot of bills under the company, but none of these things exist in the company. I ask Jake, did the company have marketing vehicles, and he shakes his head. I stand up and go to him. I show him that there's a receipt claiming that the company ordered 5 transport vehicles, which we have never seen. So, I tell Jake to double check on that, and he nods his head in affirmative. We start to notice a pattern. There are a lot of receipts written under the company's expenses, but none of those funds were ever used for these expenses. We also pick up that there are large amounts of funds missing from every account, so I tell Jake that we have to dig deeper, and he agrees. The next day, while looking through the files that Jake had given me, I managed to get some valuable information. It seems that Mr. Entitled has been using the company's fund for his own personal desires and wants. Mr. Entitled bought a mansion 2 years ago, but not with his salary. Oh no, he used the money that was for a certain client, and the employee that was in charge of the client's account was just mysteriously fired. I kept on digging. Jake comes in and tells me that he managed to access Mr. Entitled's personal laptop. He had snuck into his office while he was out at lunch with his wife and downloaded everything on his laptop onto his little thumb drive. I high-fived him and tell him to put the USB into the computer. The amount of information that shows up on the screen of the laptop and its concrete information, oh my gosh, it looks like Mr. Entitled had been committing fraud, embezzlement for years. Even before I joined the company. He also has a few harassment cases that never made it to court because he just ended up threatening the victims and using hush money to keep them quiet. I grinned and started mischievously laughing. This is exactly what I need to take this man down. I explained my grand revenge plan to Jake. Jake warns me to be careful and reminds me that I should only destroy Mr. Entitled, not anyone else, because they don't deserve to be caught in the crossfire. I nod my head, not really paying much attention to him because I'm reading through all the files. Update number 3. I've made the decision. Hey guys, so I decided. I'm going to gather this evidence, all the evidence that I have on Mr. Entitled, and I anonymously report him to the police. I make sure that this cannot be traced back to me or Jake. A few days later, it's reported on the news. Mr. Entitled has been arrested and the company's now under investigation. I jump with excitement and joy and call up Jake. He answers and harshly tells me that he can't talk right now. I tell him that our plan worked and we need to celebrate. He agrees, and I tell him to call me ASAP as soon as he's free, before hanging up. On the news, it's revealed that Mr. Entitled has been committing fraud against his clients for years, and living a lavish lifestyle has been funded by these misused funds. It's also revealed that Mr. Entitled has been lying about the company's taxes, and actually owes a lot of money. Looks like this is going to be a huge trial case, which is exactly what I wanted. There's no way that he can recover from this. Jake comes to my house late into the evening, and I'm dressed up for us to go out, and he looks stressed. He tells me that we can't go out tonight, and I ask him why. We actually won, and Mr. Entitled is finally getting the punishment he deserves. Jake shakes his head angrily and yells that it isn't just Mr. Entitled that's getting punished. Well, I look at him utterly confused and tell him to sit down because I can see that he is fuming with anger, but that he is so upset. I ask him what's going on, and he proceeds to tell me that ever since it was announced that Mr. Entitled has been arrested, all of the company's clients had pulled out immediately and wanted absolutely nothing to do with the company. I look at him even more confused and ask him, isn't that what we wanted? He bangs his head on the table and tells me that all the employees of the company have until Friday to pack up their stuff and leave. The company is closing down, and everyone who worked there is out of a job, including himself. Damn. I know I wanted to take down Mr. Entitled, but I didn't want the innocent employees and my best friend to go down with him. Jake says he has no idea what he's going to tell his wife, because they're having a baby, and a baby is expensive to take care of. I can see the worry and fear in his eyes, and I simply feel so guilty. This is not what revenge is supposed to feel like, and it definitely is not supposed to ruin your best friend's life. I comfort Jake the best way I can and tell him that we will figure something out. After it's announced that Mr. Entitled's case is going on trial, the news report that his wife is divorcing him, has gained full custody of their children due to him being in prison and considered an incompetent parent. As the investigation proceeds, it's revealed that Mr. Entitled's wife was actually the mastermind behind the illegal activities and had manipulated Mr. Entitled into carrying out the plan. It looks like the wife became money hungry and started to become greedy. As the investigation even more continued, more information is revealed, and it looks like Mr. Entitled's wife will not be getting away unscathed. The fake account that was given funds was being managed by his wife. She used the funds to pay for the mansion that the family lived in. I remember picking up on the account and that it was fake because no one at the company have ever worked with such a client. And how could they when it was Mr. Entitled's wife managing a fake account? With this new piece of information and evidence, it looks like Mrs. Entitled, well, she's also going to be facing some charges too, and a sentencing. Mr. Entitled's reputation had been tarnished and he's lost everything, which is what I wanted. But I feel guilty, and a part of me regrets even going after him. Since finding out that all the employees at the company lost their job and are now unemployed, especially my best friend, I feel that it's my fault that now they have to search for new employment for such a weak economy. I mean, some of them were the breadwinners of their family and now they're suffering all because I wanted some revenge. I even feel bad for Mr. Entitled, after finding out that it was actually his wife who was the mastermind and constructed everything. What is making me feel even worse, though, is that it looks like Miss Entitled, well, she'll be heading to trial as well, and that the children will be sent to live with a family member. Did I really just break up an entire family? Now these kids won't grow up with a mom or dad. As for Mr. Entitled, he has no one. Even with his wife going to trial, she still proceeded with the divorce. Also, who's going to want to work with him? Even if he doesn't go to prison and he beats the case, his reputation has been tarnished and it's in shambles. Was all of this really worth it? Update number 4. A year later, final update. Hey guys, it's me again. It's been a year since Mr. Entitled was arrested, and his trial, it was brutal. Sadly, he was sentenced to prison and will be in prison for a long time. His wife is still awaiting her fate, and that will be determined very soon. I felt guilty for a few months, but came to realize that Mr. Entitled deserved what he got. He wasn't a nice man and mistreated a lot of his employees. And unfortunately, this was his karma. You cannot mistreat people, just horribly, and expect life or other people to be kind to you. After getting over my guilt, I gained the inspiration to start a marketing agency with Jake. It's been running for over 6 months now, and it has been quite successful. Not as successful as the company, but it shall get there. We managed to hire some of the employees from the company. Unfortunately, we cannot hire everyone because we're still a small company and can't afford a big staff of employees. I had to take accountability for my action and accept that people had lost their jobs due to my exposure of Mr. Entitled's evil ways, which one way or the other would have come to light eventually, right? Also, his victims. They deserve some form of justice, even though it had come late, but they say, right? Better late than never. Due to my excellent reputation and upkeep of my name being cleared of this ridiculous fraud claim, some of the company's former clients came to the agency for our services, stating that they miss my creative mind and tech-savvy marketing strategies. Something that Mr. Entitled never appreciated or even implemented. I mean, you can't be using the same old marketing strategies from years ago. You have to upgrade your strats and keep them modern by keeping up with the latest trends, technology, social media. I'm enjoying being my own boss, and Jake is an incredible person to work with, and I could not have asked for a better partner. We promised ourselves and each other that we would create a safe, fun working environment for everybody. We encouraged our employees to go after big clients and not sell themselves short. Our office is filled with positive energy, and everybody's comfortable, which is something that we did not have at the previous company. It always just felt cold and dull, even during team building functions, which are supposed to be fun. Well, our team building functions are fun, and our team is forever happy. I don't think I would have thought of starting my own marketing agency if I was still working for Mr. Entitled. I probably would have been still working for him until his criminal actions finally caught up to him. So, there is a silver lining in this whole thing. My revenge plan may not have gone as smoothly as I had wanted it to, but it did open a lot of doors for me. I'm now in charge of my career and reaching my own levels of success. Because not everyone sees success the same way. Mr. Entitled saw success as how much he had in his bank account, and his lavish lifestyle. Well, my version of success is making a name for myself, being respected in the marketing industry, and being known for my integrity. It comes with the perks of being able to afford a good lifestyle with no guilty conscience. However, I don't think I will be pulling any more revenge schemes. The consequences that come with it are frightening because you never know whom you're actually going to hurt along the way. So basically, the dilemma of this story is OP okay with what OP did? OP wasn't really happy how he cost his friend his job just for some petty bit of revenge. But that leaves me with a question to ask you guys. If you were in the same position and you knew you could go ahead and get this sort of revenge on your entitled boss, would you take it? Or would you let that opportunity just pass on by you? I mean, imagine how many times you've probably had that opportunity yourself. Maybe not to this degree like we saw in the story, but some sort of degree, and maybe you can see how OP just had enough and had to go for that revenge. So drop your comments down below. Tell me your exact thoughts about this story, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you want more daily videos, go ahead and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic day.